In this section, I'm going to talk about the protists and focus on algae. So algae and protozoa have been traditionally combined into the kingdom Protista. There's the subkingdom algae, which are usually photosynthetic and plant-like, and the subkingdom protozoa, which are not photosynthetic and they're animal-like. A protist is any eukaryotic, unicellular, or colonial organism that lacks true tissues. So algae are the photosynthetic protists. They're a group of aquatic photosynthetic organisms. Aquatic means that they live in the water. Photosynthetic means that they can make their own food using sunlight. Seaweed and kelp are the most recognizable types of algae, and algae are classified based on their color. So I'm just going to go through some of the main categories of algae. You're not responsible for memorizing any of these subcategories, except you should know the one that's relevant to human disease, and I'll emphasize that one when I get there. So just as an overview, euglenoids. So euglenoids are unicellular and usually heterotrophic, meaning that they also eat other organisms. They're motile, which means that they can move, and they're green. Some euglenoids are also photosynthetic. Diatoms have silica cell walls and are abundant in almost all moist habitats. Brown algae are large multicellular protists. Kelp are the largest types. Red algae are red in color, so they have photosynthetic pigments that absorb red and blue wavelengths of light. Green algae are green in color, and they're a diverse group with many similarities to land plants. And the dinoflagellates. So dinoflagellates are the ones that you should know about because these have been associated with human disease. So dinoflagellates have two flagella and they often produce toxins. Although most algae are not harmful to people, we can swim in water with algae, we can even accidentally consume some, but the dinoflagellates are an issue. So what happens in this situation, if we have agricultural runoff, so agricultural runoff, if you're not familiar with it, it's when you farm, you're going to put fertilizers on the plants. If you have animals on that farm, the animals are going to provide fertilization to the plants as well. And there's phosphorus and nitrogen wastes that can run off. So in the fertilizer directly, there's phosphorus and nitrogen, and then animal urination and even some defecation can cause an excess of this nitrogen and phosphorus. When this all accumulates on a farm, when you have a really big rainstorm, all of that excess nitrogen and phosphorus is going to wash away, and it washes into the nearest water source, the natural water source. When it gets into a natural body of water, that excess nutrient can cause an overgrowth or a bloom of growth of algae. A lot of times it's not great to have an overgrowth of algae, but it's really bad if that overgrowth of algae happens to be an overgrowth of the dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates produce a neurotoxin, so if they grow in high concentrations, you can see them here, this red color on the shore. Shellfish are going to eat the dinoflagellates, and then that neurotoxin builds up in shellfish. And although we typically don't eat the algae directly, we do eat shellfish. So if we eat shellfish that are infected with this toxin or that have this toxin accumulated inside of them, symptoms include dizziness, muscle weakness, impaired respiration, and this is very severe in pregnant women.